So we're continuing with the subject of attachment, and today I'm going to talk about attachment to the body. And I thought I'd start with Geshe Sopa. He's so clear in talking about attachment. I thought it would be a good review. He writes, human beings live in the desire realm where the predominant form of attachment is attachment to sense objects. Life in the desire realm is dominated by the desire for the experience of contact with these sense objects. Most people spend their whole lives chasing after that contact. And then, depending on whether a particular object provides pleasant or unpleasant experience, attachment to one, hostility to the other emerges. Life in the desire realm has this quality of fluctuating between pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow. So that kind of sets the stage for looking at our attachment to the body. And I think it's helpful to remember that when we are in a state of attachment, our mind is disturbed. Because if we don't identify that disturbed mind, it's really hard to work on attachment. And I would imagine everybody's experience of attachment is different. So you have to kind of sit on the cushion and meditate a bit to see what that disturbed mind feels like, especially with attachment. So, like with attachment to a body, seeing somebody attractive, then that disturbing mind is one of kind of, I think somebody used the word the other day of zingy, feels kind of zingy inside. There's some anticipation, there's a very narrowed focus on the object. So it's very helpful to try to identify what our internal experience is when attachment is kind of running the show. And so again, attachment exaggerates the positive qualities. So if we're looking at a body that we're attracted to, there's nothing wrong with looking at a body that we're attracted to. That's fine. It's that we start then embellishing and exaggerating those positive qualities, making them quite solid, quite permanent. And then we downplay or ignore any negative qualities. And so that's where the problem is. And why is that a problem? Well, it's because the conceptual image in our mind, what we've built in our mind, does not match what that body actually is. It doesn't match it. And so we kind of create this fantasy in our mind. And when the truth kind of reveals over time, then we go from attachment to irritation and anger. So we end up flip-flopping between those two extremes. And if you think about any person that you were attached to, fell in love with, thought about all their beautiful, wonderful qualities, and then over time it's like, who is this person? Where did they come from now? It's like they changed all of a sudden. They didn't ever change in that way. We just embellished and exaggerated their positive qualities and ignored any of their not so positive qualities. And there isn't a person on this earth that doesn't have both. We all have both, you know, positive aspects, negative aspects. So how can we train ourselves to see those we care for and also see ourselves in a more realistic manner? And what that means is, you know, how can we train ourselves to see that moment by moment we're constantly changing? Moment by moment, everything is constantly changing. Moment by moment, you know, positive qualities will arise, and some, you know, shortcomings or negative qualities will arise. And so we don't want to exaggerate or deny those. And if we can stay in that balanced place, then we can start relating from that basis, which is kind of a mature, calm, balanced manner to relate. And then there's a lot of room in that for all kinds of love and compassion to come forth. Tolerance, patience, all these things. So we don't want to cling, and we don't want to get annoyed when we have somebody or ourselves in mind. So if we're thinking about the body. So if I think of my own body, when I think about, you know, how do I hold that image in my mind, that image is a lot younger than I actually am, and is more exaggerated in positive aspects than how it actually is. And so then when something happens to the body, I can get really kind of freaked out by that. So you can kind of think in your mind, you know, when you get sick, why is that such a shock? Because who isn't going to get sick? Where's that going to happen? That is the experience of every living being. Birth, sickness, aging, and death. Yeah? But we're like, whoa, you know, why me? It shouldn't happen to me. What's happening here? So that just, to me, shows how we are holding this in such an unrealistic manner. So to help cut our attachment, especially if we're attached to another body, somebody else, we can use, but also we can use this for ourselves, using the analogy of the package. So a package has wrapping on the outside and contents on the inside. That's the same as the body. So the wrapping is the skin. Because when we're attached to somebody, when we feel like somebody's attractive, we're only looking at the wrapper, the outside. So, and then we start embellishing that and start making it very solid and unchanging. And we can see this in society all the time. You know, we fall in love with somebody, we live with them, they start changing over time, and it's like, what is happening? We divorce, we get a new package, you know, we get a younger package. Yeah, that happens all the time. So if we can train ourselves to see actually what is in front of us, and I think in this culture especially, we have to be very careful when we start looking at the contents, not just the package. Sometimes it's really easy for the mind to go into, well, the body is sinful. Some of us have had that kind of training from the past. And that is totally not helpful. So we don't want to go to that extreme. We just want to be aware of the total being in front of us. So there's attraction. We have attraction to the wrapper, to the outside, fine. But a few centimeters below that, there's all this other stuff. And just to remind ourselves that, you know, there's muscle and there's tendon and there's ligament and there's organs, there's heart, there's lungs, there's kidney, there's brain, there's spleen, there's arteries and veins, and then there's all these fluids. There's blood and there's mucus and there's sweat. And we don't have to get repulsed or grossed out about that. We don't want to go to that place with this. We just want to see exactly what this is. So when we look a little deeper, then we realize that it changes moment by moment. It doesn't stay the same. It is going to change over time. And so then we get a more balanced view. We can relate to ourselves and to others with a more balanced view, so we're not freaked out when things seem to change, and we see things as they actually are. It helps us see the changing quality of ourselves and others, which is very helpful because that's what is. That's what happens here. And if we can get in line with that, then as we change, we do it with a lot of finesse and a lot of acceptance and a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of compassion. If we don't and we exaggerate, then that's what then brings up the clinging. I've got to have, and it's got to be just like this, and it has to stay the same. And that's just a suffering mind. And we have some choice in how we relate to ourselves, our body, and others, so that we don't bring such suffering onto ourselves. So I think if we can just remember it's fine to admire or to be attracted to things that we think are attractive. And of course that's very subjective. What I think is attractive, you think is unattractive, and vice versa. So it's quite subjective anyhow. But whatever that is, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when we embellish that attraction, grasp after it, hold tight to it, freak out when it changes, get angry then. That's what we want to avoid. And that's a very disturbed state of mind. So we want to keep very balanced. And the way to keep balanced is to see the reality of what is as best as we can. So let's practice that one.